couldn't have a more timely conversation than this because Jeff Miller and Brian Ballard are probably two of the most successful Republican lobbyists in town. I am not going to settle who is better or who is more successful on this stage in the next 18 minutes and 55 seconds. Let me give a quick bio of each of these men. Jeff Miller is the principal of Miller Strategies. His clients, he has a lot of clients, Blackstone, Apple, Charles Schwab, Comcast, Delta, a lot more that I won't name. Jeff also has a new public affairs firm, Watchtower Strategies, with his longtime friend Kevin McCarthy, who you were an intern when he was a staffer, is that right?
Yeah, in 1993.
That's a long time ago.
Wow, you're alive.
We have some people in the audience who probably weren't alive in 1993.
Yeah, for sure.
And was very involved in the presidential inauguration this time around, finance chair. That's the correct title. Brian Ballard runs Ballard Partners. His photo, if you open the Weekend Wall Street Journal this week, is that right? Ran in the paper that said, in Trump's Washington, it pays to be from Florida. But Jeff, you're also a Florida resident now, is that right?
Absolutely.
so that helps. Brian has a long history in Republican politics. John McCain, Mitt Romney, Donald Trump. You chaired gubernatorial inaugurations for the last 3 Republican governors of the state of Florida. You've signed something like 60 clients since Trump won. And some of your clients have included Amazon, Booz Allen Hamilton, Chevron, Comcast, MLB, TikTok, Walgreens. That's a lot of clients. So between you two, I think we have every interest in this town covered.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
That's all we need is just the two of us, right?
So, okay, cool. So let's talk about
There's still some more people I think we could sign.
Yeah, right. So what makes, Jeff, I'll start with you. What makes a good lobbyist in Trump's DC?
I mean, I think it's what makes a good lobbyist in any DC, which is, right, people trusting that you're giving them good information. But I think our firm's successful because people trust us. We give them good info that won't put them in trouble when we ask them to do something. I think the Trump admin's the exact same way.
Brian, give me your take.
I think it's that. Also, client selection. A lot of times choosing the wrong client, especially in this town, can set you way back. So,
what do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot of folks, our firm, we've decided on China specifically, if a company is trying to get out of the control of China or the ownership of China, we'll take that client. We'll consider taking that client. But if they're still under that control, we won't. And so you prevent a lot of problems, and you don't cause your other clients problems because the scrutiny they'll fall under because of that.
What was different? I mean, I guess the last couple of years of the Biden administration, there was a Republican House, so you probably both had things to do. But what was different during the Biden years? What was different about lobbying during those years?
Well, I didn't go to the White House for 4 years, so I don't know much about what happened inside the White House as far as lobbying the White House or lobbying the Biden administration. I can tell you, I think it's much more open for honest debate, much more free thinking, problem solving. I think the President Trump is involved, is getting his hands dirty on day-to-day policy. I don't think that's what was happening last time.
Jeff?
Yeah, the same boat. Obviously, I wasn't invited to the White House the last 4 years, but...
you didn't line up for a public tour or anything like that?
But we saw the struggle with a lot of our clients. Their CEOs were never invited to the White House either. And I think what you see with the Trump administration, as Brian said, is that they want to hear from everyone. They invite CEOs of every industry for open debate, and it's not based on whether or not they were supporters last election or what. It's based on making sure they get the best feedback from the wide swath of the industry.
One of the things that I think you both have to deal with, and I've talked to a lot of lobbyists talk about this, is expectations. You guys are both well connected, and there are a lot of companies, especially now with tariffs and everything that's going on in equity markets and in bond markets. I mean, in just the kind of tumult of these last couple weeks, people want to know how they could stop tariffs, how they could get exempted from tariffs. I mean, talk about how you keep people's expectations in check. They're paying you guys a lot of money, and I assume they want results, but you can't wave a wand and get something done.
Well, Jeff's right. First, it's give them good information. Don't promise the world. This process is fluid. Obviously, you've got tariffs that were imposed in Mexico and Canada regarding fentanyl. That seems to be working. Now we're going to have specific reciprocal tariffs. That's a good policy, but ultimately, there are going to be matters like there's an issue, we're dealing with a manufacturer of windows in Colombia. Aluminum is going to have a fairly sizable tariff, but is it just the aluminum around the window, or is it the whole finished product? And that's a big difference. And ultimately, the administration, I think, is going to have to start looking at, is it the finished product or just the tariffed product? And those are the type of things I think that we will find a way to be helpful to our clients on.
Jeff?
You know, I think when it comes to expectations with clients, just being very straightforward about them, about the process, how long it's going to take, being patient, but also making sure they get the chance to share their point of view.
What do you tell people about the tariff climate? I mean, like broadly, I think this is like if not the toughest issue for companies and
Yeah, but I think if you look at broadly, is that everyone knows that the president's end goal, right, is to make our economy the strongest ever in the next 4 years. And what he's focused on now, and you can see it through tariffs, through taxes, through cuts and regulations, is getting companies to onshore, right, giving them the ability to come back to the U.S., the manufacturers, et cetera, making America not just independent on energy, but independent on everything. And I think all of our clients, which are mostly all U.S. based, they get that, and you know, it's a long-term process. It's not, you're not going to see short-term gains, but long-term gains.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's, you know, this is a fluid process. What are we, day 50 or so?
Tomorrow's day 50.
So let's see where we are at day 100. And if patience is a virtue in our business, it's way more than a virtue. It's a must.
One of the things that I'm sure you deal with a lot is companies have problems outside of Washington that impact them in Washington. How they position themselves in public, from a consumer-facing point of view, how they position themselves, internal policies, what their executives say about the president or about the administration. I mean, how much time do you spend dealing with that, and what's your advice for companies that are navigating this climate?
I mean, also, I think the easiest thing is last Trump admin, right? Some CEOs were skittish to be involved, skittish to be seen publicly with the president. This time, I think almost all of our CEOs, they're all in. They're not afraid to be publicly present with the president, to engage his initiatives. And I think that just shows that the country has shifted a lot. So it's okay to be for President Trump, to be for the initiatives that are going to help make the economy better again.
Yeah, we represent a number of clients that have issues, previous matters they have to resolve. And it is way different than it was 8 years ago, where there was this almost a shunning of the administration. Now, as Jeff said, they're very eager to work with the administration, but there is a lot of, baggage out there that has to be dealt with and cleaned up. And so, you have to be honest with folks. Not everybody is going to be able to turn this around and be the best friend of the administration, but you should be able to have a serviceable relationship with your government.
How do you stay out of his crosshairs?
I mean, how do you stay out of his crosshairs? I think it's, you work as hard as you can. The good news is almost everything he's doing is a long-term benefit to our clients. Stay out of his crosshairs is, I don't know, I haven't tried to stay out of his crosshairs.
Not you personally, but the companies.
Yeah, but our clients too. It's like it's doing the right thing, participating in the effort. Obviously, don't go and trash him on TV. That's probably the best way to stay out of his crosshairs.
Let's talk about, I want to talk about the business of lobbying a little bit. And both of your firms, and let me start with this. I mean, how much is fundraising has always been a big part of lobbying and relationships on Capitol Hill. I think now super PACs and just increased limits and new ways to give. I mean, how much time, I know you spend a lot of time, Jeff, but how much time do you spend on fundraising, on helping candidates with whom, you're aligned?
Well, we have pretty big presence in Florida, so we do a lot of it in Florida, and that's more on the ground. We're state legislators, House members, Senate members, members of Congress. I would say probably 25% of my time is dedicated to fundraising, but it's not as kind of dirty as the image is. It's more you set an annual budget, and you look at what clients can participate. And you don't ask clients to participate unless there's really a sensible argument for them to be involved. And if they don't want to be involved, they're not involved. And I think it's actually it's a lot less than the public thinks it is.
Jeff, you've raised a lot of money for House and Senate Republicans. I mean, you were effectively not running McCarthy's political operation, but you were very involved in his political operation, which was raising tens and hundreds, depending on who you ask. If you ask Kevin, it was raising trillions of dollars for for House Republicans.
We had to raise close to $1 billion.
Yeah, I think he said he raised $1 billion, but we'll check the numbers on that. He likes to talk about that. Do you? I mean, talk about that. I mean, how has that changed the business, or how big of a role does that play in the business?
I mean, for me, I don't know if for sure raising money is part of the lobbying business, but for me personally, I enjoy it. Like, I love working my tail off to help Republicans keep the House, to help Republicans keep the Senate, to help President Trump get elected. I mean, I spend probably close to 50% of my time working the phones. Obviously, I push all my clients to engage, to help Mike Johnson, to help the Senate, to help President Trump. But I'm fortunate enough I got a good network around the country, and they all still take my phone calls. And I work the phones every single week to raise money, whether it's for the House, the Senate, or for President Trump.
Brian, I want to ask you guys both questions about your firms. You have now offices in DC, Florida, Boston, Chicago, LA, Sacramento, Tel Aviv, Istanbul, Africa, and Saudi Arabia. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
We'll talk about just the business side of like what your growth strategy has been.
Well, I'm lucky I've got great partners. I don't have to do all the lobbying.
Have you been to all these places?
I have been.
Okay.
Don't want to go a lot of times to Africa. It's a long trip. I was in Saudi this year. We have also affiliations with folks in Seoul and Tokyo and other places around the world. We've tried to present ourselves as a solution. If you have a problem in DC, you're likely going to have a problem in Sacramento and Tallahassee and Austin. And so we've tried to present ourselves as a firm that can help you with that. That we can't be the answer everywhere, but we know folks who can be the answer for you in those markets. So it's actually challenging to me. If I had to do all the nuts and bolts lobbying every day, it wouldn't be as much fun as what I'm doing now. So I like creating new markets, and I got great partners, so it's a lot of fun.
So is this mostly, so the way you described it, just from a business perspective, if you have company X in the U.S. that has an issue on Capitol Hill, are you then representing them in Tel Aviv and in Istanbul and places like that, or are you originating business in those places?
Both. We just signed a fairly big deal for Nigeria that a client will remain unnamed. That's also a client here. So I would say probably 30% of our clients in DC are also clients in either Florida, California, or Boston. It's a little different overseas. It's more they send work here.
Yeah, and presumably companies that are, in the Middle East that want to break into the U.S. market have issues as well.
Yeah, but we have a Saudi partner, and we have our American partner there was Bechtel for a number of years, fluent in Arabic, and so she's over there quite a bit. So those markets are interesting. It's a lot of fun, and I think you have to look beyond this 4 years and the next 4 years. We're trying to see what's out there for the next 20.
Jeff, I mentioned Watchtower Strategies, which you just started with several of your friends and colleagues, longtime friends and colleagues. Why is it important to have and we've seen this trend for a long time, public affairs arms of lobbying? It's a separate entity. I'm not.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I want to be careful because I have some good friends in that business, but it stemmed from last year and me talking to Kevin, and I was sending clients to different firms to get public affairs work done, and I wasn't super impressed with the work.
And public affairs, just so everyone understands exactly what you're talking about, public affairs is really running public campaigns.
It's comm, communications, it's issue advocacy, right? So we have a lot of clients with needs and we want it. When we're lobbying for our clients in the Capitol or in the White House, we want air cover. And so I just wasn't super thrilled with the work that we'd been sending to other firms to kind of help out our clients. And so I told Kevin, let's go find people that we actually know how to do this really well.
Yeah.
That's what we've done.
And is this mostly is this existing clients of your firm, or is this new clients outside your firm? I mean, what's the strategy?
It's a mix, right? I think I've already seen some of our clients use them, and Dan Constant, who's running it, who's, as you know, an unbelievable guy and extremely good at what he does. He's a hustler, and he's going out and bringing on other folks to represent them as well.
If there's and we only have a couple more minutes left because I went long with Mr. Diaz-Balart and Ms. Wasserman-Schultz, but what is the growth like if you look in the future in the next 5 to 10 years? And by the way, I've noticed you guys have a podcast, which I was looking on your website. I was shocked to see it had like it was up like for a couple days, had 50,000 views. I mean, you guys are creating content as well, which I think is interesting. I mean, but what is the growth for lobbying shops, both big and small, over the next 5 or 6 years? How does the screw turn in a different way?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, and our guy that runs our media group, Adam Goodman, I'm sure probably prompted you to ask that question.
No, I don't even know him.
We have
But
2
tell him to
million.
call me if you'd
we
like to
have
talk.
2 million subscribers on that, which is shocking to me. So it gives us the ability for clients to get on, be heard. It gives the ability for we've had a number of senators. We've had Gavin Newsom on. So I think you have to be creative. You have to be unique. I think for us, it separates us from a lot of other firms. We have a studio in LA, we have a studio in DC, and it's very active. It's probably more active than some days our lobbying shop.
That's wild. So Jeff, what do you think the next 5 to 10 years of lobbying looks like? How does it look different in the next couple of years than it does now?
Hopefully a few more clients and more victories.
Yeah. Okay, guys, Jeff and Brian, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick networking break. A reminder, this will just be 15 minutes. If you'd like to stretch your legs, feel free to check out the RTX activation, the Punchbowl News pink carpet, and the portal wall. See you guys in a few minutes.